So, what is the purpose behind Joe Biden constantly trying to antagonize gun owners and constantly threatening them or constantly saying such stupid stuff as this?
And by the way, if they want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need a rifle. Folks.
He can't even get the Thomas Jefferson quote correct. However, before we go any further, I want you to know right now that that particular bit that you guys caught there was covered by Rams Paul, and he did a very, very good job of it. And I will be placing that video in the description box as well as a bunch of other links. Now, guys, really quick. This video right here is not being done as a Second Amendment video or anything of that nature there. Even though you guys already know my position on the Second Amendment, I'm very, very much in favor of it. This video right here is designed to talk about the actual language that Biden uses and why it is that he keeps on bringing up F-15s. I'm pretty sure that that Philadelphia speech, you know, with the black banner and the red and, of course, the Marines in the background, me, of course, being a prior service Marine as well, obviously this right here did in fact bother me to a certain degree. And I know a few other people that also bothered as well, seeing how it is that they shortly got out of the military afterwards. Their contracts were about to expire, but they didn't like the direction that things were going in. And of course, that right there is a different topic altogether. However, we need to have a conversation on why it is that Biden chooses to use this type of rhetoric when discussing gun owners themselves. Now, I am pretty sure that most of you guys already know that Hunter Biden, his son, somebody who's got a lot of things on him that quite frankly he needs to be charged for outside of lying on a gun form. Of course, he lied on a FFL form about not being a drug addict, which, by the way, is one of the main talking points that the Democratic Party, especially Joe Biden, loves to use, is that we don't have universal background checks. But ask anybody who's ever bought a gun, who's ever filled out an FFL form, you would know that the FFL form is, in fact, your background check. You fill it out, the gun store owner, the gun store salesman, they take the form, they call NICS, it goes to the ATF. Next thing you know, they do a background check, and guess what? You just got yourself a background check. So a lot of the things that Democrats say about magazines, which, by the way, Biden even had a moment where he talked about 200-round magazines for rifles and pistols and stuff. I just, you know, it's not very hard to debunk the type of stuff that these people use. It's mostly just talking points and rhetoric. However, it is stuff that, quite frankly, we do need to take serious because there is an ulterior motive behind what Joe Biden is trying to say. So, here's what we're going to do over the course of this video. We're going to talk a little bit about this language. We're going to go back to one particular incident in the past involving Joe Biden's language and, of course, also his attitude towards one of his potential voters, which I'm pretty sure you guys already know where we're going with this because I'm showing you guys some of it in the B-roll footage. And we're also going to be talking about a couple other topics as to the point of the language itself. But I want to go ahead and tell you guys right now exactly what this language is designed to do. It's designed to dehumanize Americans who don't live in the bubble of being a Joe Biden voter. Let's go back to 2020 for a second. I want you guys to ask a question. During 2020, during COVID, how many people do you know or how many people did you see walking around town wearing masks? How many people did you see driving with masks on? Don't lie to yourself. Go ahead and be honest about it. I still see people to this day in very, very red North Carolina. Well, it's not really that red, but red enough North Carolina, who still drive around town, the city that I live in, which is not exactly a small town, not a big town either. And of course, they're still wearing masks while they drive. Joe Biden's language is designed to prey upon those who are already fearful. It was Newt Gingrich a while back, former Speaker of the House, who did an interview with Ben Shapiro. And in that interview, he basically laid out that Joe Biden was what you call the feelings over facts president.
Well, it's a little bit, you talk in one of the things I saw, a poster of yours, you talk about the facts. And Biden represents the feeling wing of America. So the facts don't matter. I mean, a little bit like AOC. I mean, she represents the hysterically feeling wing of America. And that among their people, facts don't matter. So the fact, people forget the first time Biden collapsed, he ran and he had this wonderful emotional speech about his childhood and growing up in a small town. It turned out it was Neil Kinnock's speech as a labor leader about Wales. Now, a guy who's from Scranton, representing Delaware, describing himself in terms of a Welsh village, this was back when the news media still had some sense of covering fact. I mean, the news media destroyed him. They just said, this is crazy. But one of the failures of my career, I'm watching the Palin-Biden debate, which is available online. People can check the transcript. And Biden says at one point, if you really want to understand the middle class, I want you to come to Katie's restaurant on Saturday morning where I go all the time. Well, in the back of my head, that didn't ring right. So I called a friend in Wilmington and said, when did Katie's close? Well, Katie's closed 13 years before he said that.
The point is that Joe has, quite frankly, always been full of shit. It just so happens to be that it's coming out now on the world stage. Or he represents the feelings over facts wing of the Democratic Party. I mean, think about it. This guy spits out what they call facts every single day about the economy, when obviously if you just look into the numbers, you realize he's not telling the truth, and your own eyes can tell you what's going on. And of course, your feelings are not exactly measuring up or not exactly matching the facts that Biden is putting out there, meaning that obviously Biden is full of crap. Yet, according to him, you are full of crap. That right there is how it actually works. The truth be told about Joe Biden's rhetoric is that it's designed to make one side of the aisle look completely stupid. And that side of the aisle he's talking to, of course, is gun owners. Of course, being very, very pro-2A, you think I'd be upset by this, and a part of it does upset me. A major part of what upsets me is the fact that the ATF is going out of their way to undermine the Second Amendment 24/7, whether it be sending agents to people's homes. Of course, those videos do in fact exist. I advise you guys go check out channels like, say, Ammo Land TV. Mr. Guns and Gear is another good one. Heavy Duty Country does videos on this. Calling on Noir does videos on this as well. There are much, much more, and I mean there are a lot more pro-2A channels out there who cover the Second Amendment and what's actually going on in court cases than this channel here. This channel is not a Second Amendment channel. For the most part, it's a culture war channel, but still at the same time, though, Joe Biden's language does, in fact, need to be discussed. And as I said, though, that language was designed to demean one entire side of the aisle. It's what they do. It's called division. It's called divisive politics. It's the thing that they love to do. And of course, these people who live in these areas that are going to be voting for Joe Biden are very, very ignorant of the Second Amendment. They're ignorant of guns themselves. They typically tend to be what? They typically tend to be very, very fearful of the firearm itself because they believe the firearms can just fire themselves. Now, really quick, I know I just said the other side of the aisle. Now, what I mean by the other side of the aisle is leftist loons, people who've got their head up their rear, people who love the smell of their own farts, people who are going to vote blue no matter who, the orange man bad crowd. I'm not talking about people like I'm about to show you now, which, by the way, I have no idea how this guy votes, but I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. There are people out there who are Democrats, who are, for the most part, probably socially moderate or maybe even socially conservative, but economically a little bit more moderate or even liberal, who do own firearms and are not exactly okay with gun control. But the reason why I'm about to play you guys this clip is because this right here was a Michigan union worker. Now, most union workers typically tend to vote Democrat, which goes to go ahead and show you that, yes, there are union workers who do own firearms, and there are Democrats who do own firearms who, guess what, are not in favor of gun control. But yeah, they still vote Democrat anyways. Matter of fact, it's really those people there who were starting to shift over to the right and starting to want to vote Republican. But we should have kind of seen exactly what Joe Biden was really and truly about. We should have seen it a long time ago. There's other examples, but I think for the purposes of 2020, this right here should have told you everything you need to know about the man. Roughly a minute and 47 seconds. Let's go back in time to said incident.
Been working countless hours under the Trump administration. I'd like you to explain how you plan to not only keep us working, but how you intend on getting the union vote when there's a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my sons hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were with Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns, that
I
means
did
what?
not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
Well, it's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out that are simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the guns.
Well, he just clarified it.
Wait. Take your AR-14s and what?
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Hey, let's
Don't tell me
to
this, pal. I'm gonna go outside.
There's a lot of guys, wanted.
I'm not worried. Hold on.
So much.
Give me a break, man. Don't be
You're
such a
pushing
worried
up
guy.
on me.
Hey, there's a lot of.
Hey.
Speak to Joe.
Look, here's the deal.
Go ahead, go
Here's the deal. Are you able to hold a machine gun?
own a machine gun?
I said, are you able to own one? Under the law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that in a machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America from handguns than there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying by handguns?
Biden could not even get his own language right, almost like the Thomas Jefferson quote, which of course there'll be a video from another content creator I mentioned earlier that will be in the description box actually explaining that quote. I advise you guys watch it and subscribe to that guy's channel too. The point is this right here. Joe Biden's only focus is on the feelings of people who, quite frankly, don't really and truly have any actual knowledge on the Second Amendment or guns themselves. Look, let me say something right quick before we go any further. And of course, there's a lot more to cover here because, of course, you got people looking at this and saying that this is the language of a wannabe tyrant. I agree with that. The problem with that is that it's Joe Biden who's running his mouth, and we all know that Joe Biden himself is a great, big, giant blowhard who quite literally craps his pants every chance he gets, especially on the world stage. I mean, the guy just did so at D-Day. I mean, in Normandy, in France. I did do a video on that called The Short Heard Around the World. But he also did it in front of the Pope, too. So, I mean, is this really something that actual, literal, feared tyrants do? Crap themselves on the world stage? I'm just simply saying that while the language is definitely there, and it's definitely designed to mean, do you really truly take Joe himself serious as a person? I know I don't. But I do take serious what these people are trying to do at the ATF. Sending agents to people's homes, going after solvent traps, constitutionally protected, going after FRTs, talked about that on this video here, magazine bans, crap like that there. Yeah, complete, total violations of the Second Amendment. The thing about Joe Biden, the thing about that language, and like I said before, there's a lot to work with if you guys just simply go back to his past on how it was that this right here was the leading senator when it came to the war on drugs. Meanwhile, his son, of course, was already hooked on drugs. People obviously are not going to take you serious if they see that, but still at the same time, though, the people who tend to vote for Joe, the people who tend to want to scream Orange Man bad, these right here are the people that Joe Biden caters to, and these right here are the people who, quite frankly, they operate more on feelings than facts. These people are very, very fearful, and that right there is what Joe Biden is trying to do. He is trying to up the tempo of the room, trying to up the fear. But these people, quite frankly, they don't seem to understand exactly that their fear is, quite frankly, misplaced. So what does Joe Biden do? He comes out here and talks about gun owners and says crap like, well, if you're going to take on the government, you need F-15s and all that type of good stuff there, even though, obviously, the United States of America, me being a veteran myself, if you look at our military past, at least it's the Korean War, we haven't exactly been great when it comes to fighting guerrilla-type wars. I'm just saying. I got this right here from the Next News Network. They did a small piece on this. We're going to kind of look at a little bit of this right, and then I saw another little bit from Crowder that I thought was very, very interesting. But let's look at this real quick.
But even more alarming, he appeared to threaten the use of F-15 fighter jets against American citizens. Take a look.
Are so damn important. We need you. We need you to overcome the unrelenting opposition of the gun lobby, gun manufacturers, so many politicians when they oppose common sense gun legislation. I used to be when I was no longer the vice president, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Before that, I taught a constitutional law class, and so I taught the Second Amendment. There's never been a time that says you can own anything you want. You couldn't own a cannon during the Civil War. No, I'm serious. Think about it. How many times have you heard this phrase? The blood of liberty. Wash it, though. Give me a break.
As I said, it's definitely, and I agree with my man there, it's definitely the language that a tyrant would use. But it's also the same type of language that you would use to whip up a crowd of full-blown ignorant people. The idea is to dehumanize. The idea is to demean. That right there is what Joe Biden is trying to do. But of course, it's also Joe Biden. He's a great big giant blowhard. And as I mentioned before, he craps his pants. Let's look at some more.
And by the way, if they want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need rifles.
Can you believe it? He's mocking the Founding Fathers. He's literally mocking the Founding Fathers. So let's be clear. The Second Amendment was enshrined in the Constitution by our founders to protect against exactly this kind of tyranny from the government. The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is as a last resort to protect themselves against tyranny and government. Biden claimed you couldn't own a cannon during the Civil War. Wrong. The Second Amendment has always protected the rights of citizens to bear arms to defend against threats, foreign and domestic. Biden mocked this, saying they're going to need F-16s, F-15s, not rifles. This is the language of a wannabe
and
tyrant.
the people who understand the Second Amendment and the people who, quite frankly, understand that you are going to need firearms at some point in time to protect yourself against a tyrannical government, people like myself, people like you guys out in the audience who are watching, we understand things like gun safety. We understand that it takes a person to operate a firearm. However, as I said before, it's the people who are on the other side of the aisle, the people that Joe Biden is playing to, who obviously don't seem to understand this. And of course, Biden's playing to that. It makes you wonder exactly where these people's overall IQs are. But then again, at the same time, though, it typically tends to come down to book smarts versus street smarts and common sense. Something that these people, quite frankly, I'm not saying they don't have it. I'm just simply saying that these people tend to be, insulated inside of a bubble. And therefore, being insulated inside of a bubble is definitely going to make you much, much more fearful. I would tell these people to just simply get out of the house and actually go to a friend of theirs' house and actually learn how to use a firearm. But of course, these right here are also the same exact people who believe that milk comes from the store and not from a cow. You got to get the milk from the cow to get to the store. Yeah, I think I did a piece on this a while back actually discussing the same exact issue. The truth be told is this right here. The Second Amendment of the Constitution, obviously is put in the Constitution for a reason. It's designed to protect against a tyrannical government. However, against the government itself is another conversation altogether, which we'll get to in a second. By the way, I'm not endorsing anything as far as so that way, YouTube, of course, they'll flag the video and say that you're advocating for violence, and that's not what the hell I'm doing. I'm just simply talking about the issue at hand, and of course, I'm not advocating for anything. Except, hey, if you're new to the Second Amendment, hey, go talk to a friend and maybe they'll take you to the range and teach you how to operate a gun safely, and maybe you won't be scared anymore. Just simply saying, maybe I'll advocate for that there, good, safe gun ownership. But still, the point is this right here. And by the way, you should be very, very interested in getting involved in the Second Amendment. I'm just simply saying you should take advantage of that right. But the thing is this right here, and of course this right here is the overall point of the entire situation, the entire point of the entire conversation, is the audience that Joe Biden is playing to. Yes, we know Joe Biden is a doddering old fool. Yes, we know Joe Biden is incompetent. Yes, I mentioned the fact that he craps his pants. Yes, I mentioned that he's a blowhard. He has a history of being a complete total blowhard. He's even got a history of threatening the Supreme Court that's, quite frankly, pretty daggone recent.
And with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
Obama did that crap too. Of course, the purpose behind this is obviously to keep these people in some state of fear, or try to give them some form of pacification, or try to pacify their fears. He's going to take care of it, when in reality, he himself is not going to take care of it. But then again, though, like I said before, there are other Second Amendment channels that give you updates and tell you what's going on, and I'll just simply direct you to those. The point is this right here. The language that he is using is extremely demeaning and obviously extremely divisive. However, it's also extremely, and when I say extremely full of crap. You see, the vast majority of these people just believe that the U.S. government would just kick in the doors and take your guns away from you, when obviously that right there would not happen. Quinnipiac University, and this right here is a poll that they did, and of course the same poll that they did is not one that I fully trust, because Quinnipiac tends to be very, very bad with polls, but they typically tend to skew in the opposite of what I'm about to say. Quinnipiac University actually did a poll of military members, and they were actually asked about the possibility of taking guns away from people, and the common answer that they got out of people was that they would flee the military, they would not want to join. This kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about that infamous photo, the infamous speech from Philadelphia, where he had the Marines in the background. It's not exactly something that went over very, very well with the military. Trust me, the guys who serve our military, they took an oath to defend this Constitution, and the vast majority of them wouldn't mutiny during a situation like that. Now, I can already hear somebody in the comment section saying, what hell proof do you have? And there's going to be people who's going to disagree with me on that. Don't worry. We will talk about that at a later date. The point is this right here. What Joe Biden is simply doing is he's playing to an extremely ignorant audience. And of course, it's something that, quite frankly, he's been known to do for many, many years. But once you actually boil Biden down himself, you realize he's obviously somebody not to take serious. But that's also the point. Is Biden even really and truly in charge? It's a very, very interesting question. Now, I came across this bit right here from Steven Crowder. I'm going to play it for you guys and come back on the other end and kind of discuss it a little bit more. But it is curious why it is that he keeps on saying what he's saying.
Quite a bit in the Change My Minds. That doesn't stop our former Vice President Biden from using this. He says the only way that the Second Amendment still applies, if you want to stand up to the government, you need to get yourself an F-15.
By the way, if they want to think to take on government, if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need a rifle.
So first off, are you saying you're going to attack citizens with an F-15? That sounds like saying, you're not going to do what we're bringing unless you also have F-15s. What do you have planned?
Translator.
Yes. How many scotches did
I don't
have?
speak old.
Yes.
The fuck? I mean, the heck.
Also, by the way, I don't know if you know this, F-15 is manufactured by Boeing. So we kind of like our chances if that's what they're running.
That's true.
For some reason, though, former Vice President Biden is stuck. This is not the first time that he's mentioned this. He's stuck on this idea of Second Amendment using the F-15 talking.
It does make you wonder why he keeps on bringing up F-15s and F-16s. It does make you wonder why as he keeps bringing it up, as if to say maybe something is planned. Now, you guys know me. I'm not interested in blackpilling people and trying to scare anybody. I try to be real with you guys. But there is one more thing that I do need to say before we look at Joe Biden's history of threatening gun owners. And I do need to say this because I do think it's very important. The mindset that I've been talking about that Joe Biden is playing to is obviously the mindset of one of ignorance. And there is a video that I did a while back that I put on Gear Issue 33 talking about Geraldo Rivera's very, very bad take on AR-15s. Geraldo Rivera, if you guys remember who he is, he worked at Fox News. He's been around for a very, very long time. He's very, very much a liberal, even though he claims he's a registered Republican. At the end of the day, this entire issue is not really and truly about Republican versus Democrat. It's not really about conservative versus liberal. It's not got nothing to do with that. In a lot of ways, it's really more about big city urban and suburban versus small town America and rural America. These types of takes are common in cities because a lot of people who live in these cities, who've been inside these cities their entire lives, are very, very ignorant of the Second Amendment and firearms themselves. And they just, quite frankly, believe if we take the gun away, then quite frankly, no crime will happen, which is obviously one hell of a fallacy given the fact that the vast majority of these shootings occur in major cities. And of course, they'll want to say, well, it happens in red states all the time. There's a lot of blue cities in red states. I mean, Birmingham, Alabama, there's Jackson, Mississippi, Atlanta, Georgia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, even though Virginia is not a red state, but it's still technically the South. Memphis, Tennessee is extremely violent still. St. Louis, Missouri, Dallas, Texas. So, yes, there are shootings that do, in fact, happen in red states. It just so happens to be that they're in blue cities with extremely strict gun laws. So in reality, it's not even really and truly the government that you should really and truly fear, even though obviously the government's a problem. It's really the, how do I say, soy boy liberal voter that you should probably be a little bit more concerned about, because these right here are the people who, quite frankly, vote for this nonsense. But where was I at? I was at Joe Biden's history, his history of threatening gun owners. Let's watch.
Need to work about taking on the federal government. You need some F-15s. You don't need an AR-15. I'm serious. Think about it. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. There never been, if you wanted to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned.
I hate that guy.
What does he have planned? Where he keeps saying F-15s, you need F-15s. And when they say, hey, what, you think you're going to fight off the government with the weapons that you have? Well, yes. He says you can't fight them without F-15s. Tell that to the Viet Cong. Tell it to the Mujahideen.
Oh, no.
The Taliban. And the Wolverines.
Last 25 seconds in for a reason, because Crowder's actually not lying. Now, could I do a video in the future about the U.S. gun owner versus the military or anything like that? Of course I could do that, even though I don't think it's ever going to come to that. If anything, I would be more concerned about leftist blue cities having to face the military at some point in time, because that's normally where all the chaos in America occurs at, and that right there is where the military would be sent to. The truth is this right here. The Biden administration, Joe Biden, for the most part, he's full of bluster. He runs his mouth. He's obviously throwing rhetoric out there. He's playing to an extremely liberal audience that's extremely ignorant and obviously has a serious disdain for you. I could do several videos on that. Of course, I'm not going to be able to touch all that right now. But that right there is the whole point behind Joe Biden's extremely dehumanizing language. Now, do I like his language? Hell no, I don't like his language, but I also don't take him serious. However, this right here is what I do take serious. And that right there is the fact that the Second Amendment of the Constitution, the right to bear arms, is your right to bear arms. It's my right to bear arms, and it's our deterrence against a tyrannical government, which, of course, this government is becoming more and more and more tyrannical. It just so happens to be it's becoming more and more and more tyrannical in the sense of the Democratic Party. And the Republican Party at this moment in time, unless we make some changes to it, looks like nothing more than controlled opposition. The point is this right here. What the Biden administration's ATF is doing to gun owners right now, sending agents to their houses, sending people to small gun stores, stuff like that there. Of course, going after solvent traps, which by the way, are constitution protected, and FRTs, magazines, stuff like that. That right there is what the hell should concern you. That right there is the issue. That right there is the thing that I've been trying to say the entire time, that the government would find small ways to come after you. However, about Biden himself, just know this right here. The reason why it is that you vote for somebody like, say, Trump this time around is to avoid what the hell comes behind Biden. Because obviously what comes behind Biden is probably going to be a lot worse than what the hell Biden is, because they do want to take us in this extremely tyrannical direction. You can try to red people all you want, and that right there is something that, quite frankly, we need to continue to do, especially on this platform at the college campuses. But the fact of the matter is the only reason why is that Joe Biden uses this dehumanizing language is to keep people who live in suburban and city areas in some form of fear of you, when obviously there's nothing to fear. That right there is the reason why he does it. It kind of course, at the exact same time explains a lot of the divisiveness in this nation, and also a lot of the brain rot that's going on. It's kind of sad, because it's kind of like what Yuri Bezmenov said. These people, you can show them facts, you can show them evidence, you can show them the studies all day long, and they will still find a way to say that you're not telling the truth. And that right there is why we are in the situation that we're in, is because of divisive rhetoric that people, quite frankly, take fully serious without actually leaving their house and seeing the reality for what it is. And that right there, my friends, is the reason why it is that Joe Biden is using this type of language. Now, do we take this government serious? Yes. This government right now is becoming more and more tyrannical. But Biden himself, he's pretty much a blowhard, and I'm pretty confident we can get him out of office this year. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I'll see you guys later.